Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette. We have a very special guest on this week's episode, and a lot of people, when I say the name Barry Carl, may not recognize the name, but I'm guessing if you're probably around my age, if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you may recognize the voice, and you've probably seen him before. If you ever remember the TV show, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? He was one of the featured singers on that show in the group Rockapella. And we're talking to him, not about that actually, a bit about his journey in martial arts. So welcome to the show, Barry. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good. Like I said, it's a nice sunny Sunday afternoon, sun shining, and you can't really ask for more during these times in our lives. So
actually, I'd be tempted to ask for less because I live in the New York area, and it'd be great. You know, it's supposed to get up to around 100 today, and I'd like less humidity, please.
True. I'm in Minnesota, actually recording this in North Dakota right now, across the river. Yeah, the humidity just the last 2 weeks has been kind of bad for us. I mean, not as bad as my son. My son went to school in Florida, and the humidity in Orlando was way worse than this. But it's not usually quite this bad around here. So I think I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, one of my kids went to college in St. Pete, and I helped move in August, I think, and it was, my God.
Same exact. We brought him down there in August a couple years ago, and I was just walking out of the hotel room the first morning. It's like, I'm covered in sweat. I've been outside for 3 seconds.
Right.
Not fun. Although I've been on the complete opposite. I lived in California in the mid-90s. I went out there actually for martial arts, and I lived in the high desert, so I lived in complete dry heat. So I've been on complete polar opposites. It was 115 degrees and zero humidity.
I'm a native Angelino, and that's where my martial arts journey began.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what age now did you start as a kid?
I did. I was 9.
Okay, was there like a TV show or a movie, something that sparked your interest? Was there a friend that was doing it? What kind of began that interest for you?
Actually, it was dire necessity. I was a kind of a small kid,
really?
And until I hit 11, and my voice changed, and I started to grow. But at 9, I was a little kid, and I lived in a kind of a rough neighborhood, and I wasn't very well coordinated. I was always like the last kid that got picked for teams. I couldn't throw well, ran really slow, didn't have great eye-hand coordination. So I was really at the bottom of the pecking order. And in my neighborhood, there were kids that would actually jump me in groups and
wow.
and hold me and beat the crap out of me. I'd go home crying, and my dad said, well, we're going to get you some self-defense lessons. And they enrolled me in a judo class, a jiu-jitsu class.
Okay. Do you remember who your first instructor was?
I don't remember his name.
Okay.
I don't, there's not a whole lot of detail that I remember from that time in terms of like names. I mean, I don't even remember people I met a month ago. So, I remember faces, but not names.
How long did you stay in that?
I was in that probably for about a year and a half to 2 years.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't, it didn't serve me too terribly well. It gave me some confidence, which got demolished every time a bunch of kids would jump me in a pack, because there was just nothing in the early judo training that would help me in a situation like that.
Right.
Except for kicking, because I was small and I had no reach. Kids could get in close with me, and learning how to kick really helped me a lot. It gave me a little bit of a comfort zone.
So they actually taught that in judo? 'Cause I did judo for a short time when I was younger, and I'm sure it differs by school, but we didn't do any kicking in my judo class.
Well, we did kicking, striking, and throwing and falling.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and it all started right about the same time. And needless to say, I didn't do very well because I was fundamentally uncoordinated and scared, actually. So those were inhibitory factors that disappeared later, at least after I kind of grew and then grew into my body and became a little more familiar with it. But at least it was something.
Okay, interesting.
That was it. It didn't necessarily protect me.
Okay.
Because the class rules are so different from the street. I think that a lot of people who get formal martial arts training are disadvantaged in street fights because they get used to the formality of it, and street fighting is just messy. I mean, I learned a lot more a lot later. I studied kickboxing for about a decade with a WWF champion, and he was a grappler. I mean, he was Muay Thai and kind of a whole combination of techniques. But most street fighting you end up rolling around, and that was all the grappling work came in very, very handy at that point.
Oh, for sure. And then, so what age now after judo was kickboxing the next that you did, and how long after that was it?
No, actually, what I transitioned to from judo was Tai Chi.
Oh, okay.
And I really didn't get the full benefit of the training for a number of years, because the way Tai Chi is taught and practiced, generally, it's very slow, it's contemplative. I think it's a wonderful form. I was very, very attached to it. And I didn't really realize the efficacy of the training until somebody was horsing around with me one day and pulled a punch on me. And I went into a warding stance effortlessly, immediately, and without thinking.
I don't think a lot of people realize that, Tai Chi is a martial art. Oh no, it's just meditation. It's just exercise. No, it's a martial art.
Oh no, it is a deadly serious martial art.
Yes.
Fortunately, I learned the Yang style long form that Cheng Man Ching taught, and there exists today a little piece of film from Japan right after World War II, and it shows 5 big American sailors hanging on Cheng Man Ching. I mean, they had him. There was no way that this little guy was going to get out of the grip of these 5 big meaty sailors in one frame, and the next frame you see all 5 guys flying in different directions, and he didn't move.
I'll have to find that video.
He said it was the release of chi. Now, I never got that adept, but he used to say that the bones of someone who does Tai Chi practices regularly and seriously actually become heavier and denser because that's where the chi is stored in the body.
Okay.
In the bones. And I found that to be true. I mean, I didn't practice a lifetime like he did. I wasn't a master by any means, but it served me better in terms of defending myself than anything to that point had.
Wow.
Certainly more than judo had. I was lucky that when I did grow, I got big kind of fast, and I was in a weight training class, so it evened the odds, and so many fewer people picked on me.
I suppose, yeah.
It helped to be, a larger person.
I suppose the big guy with a deep voice, you probably started to get intimidating a little easier.
It was, and I think it saved me because my inside hadn't caught up to my outside yet, and I was still kind of a small, scared kid inside a large body. So I'm glad that wasn't tested very often.
I know my first experience with Tai Chi was actually David Carradine. I didn't know much about Tai Chi, and then I remember reading a book about him. And after the show Kung Fu, he dove into Tai Chi, and he spent, I think, 20 some years of his life studying Tai Chi and released videos on it and even wrote a book on it. That was my first time knowing anything about it.
Funny. It's a small world. A very, very close friend of mine through school, a musician named Sharon Benson, actually worked with David Carradine in a band.
Oh wow!
She was in his band, so I got some of the inside stuff on him and Tai Chi directly from her. Okay. But I've never seen the video you're talking about.
Yeah, I know it was. I remember just seeing it for sale in like Black Belt magazine back in the '90s or something. Learning Tai Chi with David Carradine. I don't know if there's any copies floating around out there or anything. I never saw the video myself, but I just remember seeing the advertisement for it.
I wouldn't know.
So now, was this Tai Chi, was this was also in California?
No, that was in New York.
Okay.
I was in New York by that time. Like I had left California when I was 18 and never actually took up residence again. I've been a New Yorker since then. And I found a Tai Chi teacher through the Reiki community.
Oh, okay.
Interestingly enough, then Reiki has nothing to do with anything more than maybe spiritual self-defense, but or energetic healing. My Tai Chi teacher was a member of the Reiki community, so that's how I found it.
Now, was this when you were going to college at Juilliard?
No, this was post-college.
Okay.
Actually, I mean, my college self-defense was, defending myself with a French horn case. And I don't know if there's a name for that. I
suppose you could have used opera. You could have used opera for self-defense too. I mean, come on.
Well, the opera, the voice will stop people, at least maybe for a second.
Definitely.
But I did once or twice have to ward somebody off with an instrument case.
Nice. And how long did you do Tai Chi for?
I did Tai Chi for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great practice. Well, it's the kind of thing that I don't think really yields any kind of practical result until it becomes second nature. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems in self-defense and in many other stress situations is that we all tend to devolve to some kind of baseline behavior under stress. And it takes a lot of repetition and application to alter that baseline behavior. You can't do it when you're already activated. You can't do it when there's adrenaline coursing through your body. You can only do that kind of work when your nervous system is downregulated, when you're in a more or less parasympathetic state. It's the only time you can do the work that will change your behavior under stress. So years and years of performing the same movement and in concert with the breath and using consciousness actually kind of had this effect on me where my baseline behavior altered significantly from doing that work. It also changed how I worked on stage.
Oh, okay.
Because what it did was it reversed my baseline behavior. Whereas before doing that work, a stress situation would find me breathing rapidly and shallowly, releasing a lot of adrenaline and cortisol in my system. I would have so much adrenaline in my system that my whole body would shake.
Wow.
Which led me to believe at that time that I was just a chicken. I didn't know that, you shake because there's chemicals in your systems that are activating your body for flight or fight. So what happened over the years that I was studying Tai Chi was that flipped. And I became calmer under stress. I got almost icy, and the whole discipline of root, sink, and center that is central to so many martial arts modalities, where you're digging into the ground and you're going lower into your body and really concentrating energy in the hara and the hips and the legs, which is so grounding, which is something that I think I personally tended to lose under pressure. I became ungrounded. I got scared, and the Tai Chi brought me back down to ground.
Okay.
It would slow my heart rate, slow my breathing, slow the release of stress chemicals in my body, and that was very, very, very helpful in concert situations. It didn't matter if I was walking out to the middle of Soldier Field to sing the anthem for 80,000 people, or being on Jay Leno show on New Year's Eve live. These are like pressure situations, right, that would formerly have, I think, gotten me all wired up. But instead, I started to experience a calmness that really, really helped.
So now when you were, now you were with Rockapella for 15 years or so, touring the world. So when you were touring nonstop, did you find it hard to find the time to practice? I mean, you guys were touring Japan and all over the U.S. Did you make sure you found time to practice practice your martial arts, or was it? Did you find it a little more difficult when you
Well,
were traveling?
it was. Yeah, I'd like to say, I always found time, but I didn't.
Okay.
There were days when it was just, maybe I can get in a workout. Maybe I can get in a swim, because to spend an unbroken 45 minutes or hour to get through the Yang long form wasn't always available to me.
Okay.
So I'd like to say that I was regular with the practice, but by that time I think it had sort of grooved its way into my body.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And now, you also mentioned when we chatted earlier, kickboxing. When did that come about? Was that at the same time as Tai Chi, or did that come after?
No, this is all sequential.
Okay.
I never did two things at the same time, because
Okay.
I didn't have the time and I didn't have the money.
Okay, that makes sense.
So kickboxing happened towards the end of my Rockapella career. I think I started doing that around 1998 or so, 97, 98.
Okay, that's when I first met you, actually.
Yeah.
First time I met you was
I
June of 98 at Big Sing, USA in Minnesota was the first time we met.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, I was heavily into it by then.
Okay.
And it changed how I worked out. It changed my body mechanics. It changed a lot.
Well, it's such a different martial art than what you were used to.
Well, not only that, but the training for it changed me.
Okay.
Fortunately, my teacher was about the same size as me, and same height. He had 50 pounds on me, and it was all muscle. If he kicked me, it was over. I'd just go down.
Right.
I never had the striking power that he did. But when I first started the class, he did some of the routines with hand weights.
Oh, okay.
We do like a lot of punching exercise with hand weights, or like kicking with ankle weights. And I think I was trying to impress him, because he offered me a pair of like 5-pound hand weights.
Yep.
And I kind of poo-pooed him, turned up my nose, and asked for 10s. And he looked at me and shrugged and smiled and handed them to me. And after about 10 minutes with those 10-pound weights, I was done.
Yeah, that's not easy.
I was just done. No, it's not. And people would say, "God, what do? You got these like guns." And I said, 5 pounds.
Yep. You ever seen the videos of Mike Tyson doing that with, I think, 50 or 100-pound weights? When he was in his prime, I remember watching one of his training videos. I'm like, because I was the same thing. We used to do we'd actually do bricks. We'd do like patio bricks for punches in one of my martial arts classes instead of weights, but same idea. And someone showed me the video of Mike Tyson with like 50-pound weights. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so.
No, I'm not built that way. I never had that kind of muscle. It was very interesting, though, to see the kind of results that I could get with 5 pounds, and it sort of prepared me for the alterations that I would later make in my workout patterns as my body aged. 5 pounds is plenty.
I agree completely, 100%.
Do 100 strikes with 5 pounds.
Exactly. So now you're a parent now. Have your kids got involved in martial arts at all?
No, they haven't. I did some basic self-defense stuff with them. I have 2 girls,
right?
And it was important to me that they be able to defend themselves as needed if I wasn't there or somebody wasn't there.
Yep.
And my oldest daughter, who's special needs, actually acquired a stalker at one point.
That's scary.
Yeah, it was scary because the guy was 6'8", about 280, and my daughter is 5'6", 5'7", maybe 125 pounds.
Wow.
And I worried. It was the one time in my life when I called up the retired cop friend of mine and said, "I'm coming over for coffee, and I'm thinking of buying a gun, and I want you to talk me out of it."
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a little bit ugly. This probably gets a little bit off the martial arts track. But I did apply myself to that, and eventually got the guy locked up.
That's good. Well, that worked then, obviously. So.
Yeah, maybe that's law jitsu or something like that.
Exactly.
But it first became perspicacity is an important element in self-defense, I think. Keeping at it, whatever it is.
Let me ask you this. If a friend approached you and said, hey, I'm thinking about getting into martial arts, and I know you've done it, what type of advice would you give them? What are some tips you'd give them, or maybe some things to look for, to watch out for in searching for a martial arts school or instructor?
Well, that's a big question. I think it would depend on the person, their age, their size, their physical shape. I think that karate has grown tremendously in the last several decades, just in terms of interest. And it's been my observation that there's some very, very qualified teachers, mm-hmm. and there are a lot who shouldn't be teaching.
Exactly.
I've seen a lot of injury, even death, in martial arts classes, particularly karate classes. I wonder sometimes that our culture isn't well suited to the kind of student-teacher relationship that I think fosters a healthy, I don't know what's the right word, a healthy outlook. Mm-hmm. I've seen highly trained people in dojos become way more aggressive than they needed to be under certain conditions, which to me is a lack of control.
Yes.
I had a friend whose jaw was broken during a black belt exam.
Oh, wow.
Because he had to fight all the black belts in the dojo, and some of them just wanted to own him. They weren't into fighting; they were into dominating. And to me, that's a flaw. That's a training flaw.
Yeah, a bad instructor or something usually.
Right. So I would urge a person probably to try different things, find something that adapted well to their particular body, and then to find an instructor who was qualified to teach them. It seems like anybody can hang out a shingle.
Right.
There's fight clubs everywhere. There are dojos everywhere. And a lot of them they even start with like aggressive names, Screaming Skull Eagle Blood Dojo.
Yep.
I would probably avoid.
Well, and unfortunately, there's no governing body each art has their own, but there's no oversight committee saying, you're a legitimate instructor. And I think it would be impossible for something like that to exist. I mean, one bad example, not a bad example, but when I lived in California, there was a local school, and I do the air quotes with that one, that it turned out he'd been in business about a year, and someone discovered that he had never had a day of training in his life. The guy running the school, he had ordered ordered VHS training tapes, and the day before the class, he'd watch the training tape and then go out and teach that same technique, and he was charging people for these lessons that he had no idea what he was doing, and got away with it for a year before he was discovered. It's sad.
Wow. And I can't imagine what happened to people within that year.
Exactly. And there's no, other than fraud, there's no real legal ramification. I mean, as far as I know, he probably just took the money and run and got away with it, and probably did it somewhere else. I mean, nowadays, online, you'd get Facebook shamed and everyone would know who you were, and you'd never open another school. But back then, that wasn't a thing.
Right. So anybody could call themselves anything. And I think they still do.
Yeah.
I think they still do. I mean, my experience of dojo culture is closed ranks, circle the wagons. There's a lot of misplaced feeling, protect the honor of the dojo, protect the teacher when they don't deserve it.
True.
Or even when they don't deserve it. So I think they're probably, it's a lot like people who get suckered in by a particular kind of guru. And I'm not slamming gurus. I'm not slamming religion here. It's just that there's a lot of malfeasance.
Oh yeah, like a cult leader or a con man. Yeah.
Right, and I think dojos or training facilities generally are not uniquely susceptible, but they are susceptible to a cult mentality.
Yeah, I've witnessed that myself. Yes.
There's a certain amount of regimentation. There's a certain amount of honoring the teacher. And following directions immediately and without question that are part of the culture. And it can go in two directions. And one of them disempowers the student and makes complaining highly unlikely. And sometimes it's needed.
Agreed. So is there, in all your years of martial arts, is there like a one or two specific philosophies you've learned that you kind of hold on to or you kind of use in your everyday life that stand out?
Well, I've used a lot of martial arts principles in my work as a singer. The groundedness, that whole idea of root, sink, and center
Mm-hmm.
is kind of central to any kind of energetic work that involves the body. Because if you're not grounded and you're not breathing, you're basically not in your body.
Right.
You're kind of floating around somewhere, but you're not really embodied. And so to be really present, to have your fully functioning mental capacities, breathing and grounding, I think, are vital. One of the sad things about survival mode is that to fight or flee, the body actually robs blood and therefore oxygen from the brain and sends it to the muscles, because you need the power to fight or flee more than you need to think. But what that does is it robs you of a significant portion of your ability to think right when you need it the most. So staying present, staying grounded actually helps restore mental function, which you may need more than the other two, especially if a situation in which you're physically threatened seems to be escalating. And, there's almost always a window in situations, not always, but, almost always.
Right.
There's this moment, there's a small window where de-escalation is possible. And I think the best martial arts trainings involve that, because the object isn't in martial arts, at least the way I've understood it all my life, isn't to be able to fight your way out of any situation, but to have enough self-possession so that you don't have to.
Exactly.
And I don't think that part of the training gets enough play in a lot of situations, a lot of schools. The concentration is on fighting rather than how you carry yourself in the world. The dojos and training facilities that I respect are those in which the teacher holds the principle of nonviolence above violence and teaches self-control and self-possession as part of the discipline.
That's a great answer. I like that a lot. So just a few fun questions kind of to wrap things up here. And first one is just more of a kind of an opinion. I'm just kind of curious your thoughts. Are you a fan of MMA and the UFC? Is that something you enjoy? Is it a guilty pleasure, or do you not watch that at all?
Oh, I do. I do watch. Sometimes it's comedy, because some of the matchups are ridiculous.
Yeah.
But there's some very, very serious athleticism and amazing fighting in cage matches. It almost always gets my adrenaline going. I can't help that, but it does interest me.
Do you have a favorite martial arts book that you enjoy reading or have read or recommend to people?
Well, there's the book that was written. I don't know if it was by Cheng Man-ching about Tai Chi and the Yang style long form, but I do enjoy that one. I if I could find it on my shelf without wasting your time, I would.
I'll tell you. If you send me the name, and I'll put a link in the show notes for people. So
I'll see if I can find it, because it talks about the philosophy a lot.
Okay.
As well as the form, and I think that's really just such an important piece. I think anybody who delves into martial arts without going into the philosophy is, I won't say dangerous, but they don't have the foundation that they would have if they had the philosophy along with the training.
Right. Okay. And then do you have a favorite martial arts TV show and or movie?
Oh, I'm a real sucker for the original Karate Kid.
Oh, it's my all-time favorite.
It is one of my all-time favorite movies.
That's actually the movie that got me into martial arts. So
I'm sure it got a lot of people in.
I watch it 3 or 4 times a year. So
yeah, when it's on, I'll watch it. It's because partly is because it did such a good job around the philosophical basis, and I think that in some ways it's like a morality play.
Yep.
Because the kid who won had that foundation, where the Ralph Macchio character had that philosophical foundation. He got it along with the training. It was part of it. It wasn't just about winning. It was about your internal state.
Right.
I think that's forgotten sometimes.
Have you watched the new Cobra Kai yet? Have you seen that new show?
No, I haven't. Part of my self-protection these days is I don't have cable TV. So I'm unless it's on Netflix or, Amazon Prime or something like that, I probably haven't seen it.
And I want to say it's coming to Netflix. I thought I just read that recently, that season 3 is going to be on Netflix, and they're going to be putting season 1 and 2 on there. So if you get a chance, if you're love the original as much as I did, I think you will really like Cobra Kai. It's a great show.
Well, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. So there's probably some binge watching in my future.
Well, there you go. I know. I think I watched the season 1 in one day and season 2 in like a day and a half. So they're enjoyable, and it's fun seeing the original characters and stuff too that is still in there. And I'm predicting we'll see Allie make a comeback in season 3. I don't know. I kind of have that feeling the way the cliffhanger left off. So.
Don't give it away.
I won't give it away. I won't give it away. But you'll trust me. You'll have to talk to me after you watch it, because I'd love to get your opinion on it. But
I will.
But I just want to thank you for taking the time and doing this. This has been really enjoyable. Like I said, we've talked many times in the past, and usually it's been about a cappella music or voiceover. It was kind of fun to chat martial arts a little bit, and learned a lot about it. Another level to our relationship. How cool is that? There we go. But I truly appreciate it, and like I said, send me the name of that book, and I'll find a link for it and put it in the show notes for people to promote that a little bit. And if you have a personal website you want me to promote for your voiceover stuff, I can link that one too. But,
well, thank you. I don't have a website anymore because I don't want web traffic.
Well, there you go. Thank you. But no, seriously, I truly appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Barry.
You too, Brian.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.